Never let a crisis go to waste, huh? That's the mantra of those that always chase more money, more power. Crises, they can be exploited in multiple ways and for many reasons. It's important to remember that because it means that the exploitation isn't always easy to recognize. Exploitation of disasters for division of the people is a really popular one, especially these days. This week it's the trans fight, right? I'm not saying that these issues, don't matter, but they can't be the only issues that do matter. There are issues that are just as important, maybe more so in some cases. They are hidden under these issues that are being thrown into your face by the mainstream media every day. China and Brazil. China and Saudi Arabia. China is currently setting itself up to be the new global currency. This isn't anything new. They've been at this for a while. Normally, it's just business as usual. Each country looks out for its own, that kind of thing. The competition would drive economies, and that would be that if this were business as usual. The problem is, China is actively shaking hands with our allies, and our allies are allowing it. And our own government is working to destroy our own currency. Now, that's not a state of national or international competition. And how are they destroying the dollar? They're spending yours like crazy and inventing more out of thin air. We know that's going on, right? We know that. So when a government is helping to rig the entire financial game and losing on purpose, well, that's a whole different situation from business as usual. That's not any sort of competition. That's a fixed fight. Now, you could also make the argument that our government is almost indistinguishable from the Chinese government at the very top, and there is a lot of evidence that points to, that being the case. There are many indications that point to Washington, D.C. having already sold us out to the Chinese government. I would posit that the end result would still be the same. Whether this is being done out of naive stupidity or treasonous greed, the roads lead all to the same place. And what place is that? That's the collapse of the US dollar as the world's currency. And then shortly after that, the collapse of the dollar altogether. There are trillions of US dollars held in other countries. We're the global reserve currency after all. So when a few countries like Brazil and Saudi Arabia start offloading the dollar and doing deals in the Chinese yuan, someone has those dollars, and those dollars have to go somewhere. Where do they go? Eventually, they come right back to us because we're still using it. They come back to us in trade. Now, if it's just trade, that's normal, right? We do trades with other countries in dollars. The problem with this situation is the dollars stay here once they get here, as more countries fear for the stability of those dollars, because some countries have already started offloading them. They won't want them back. They got rid of them for a reason, took a loss maybe on whatever they bought, and they do not want them back. This would be catastrophic. China and Brazil have already struck this deal. It's done. China and Saudi Arabia are moving closer to formalizing their version of the deal. Closer than they've ever been, actually. So, as more and more countries see these deals and start worrying about how many dollars they're holding, the fewer dollars leave our shores in trade. Because other countries are seeing what these countries are doing, and they're like, yeah, don't know if we really want a lot of dollars right now. And then more and more still are arriving on our shores every day. So what is inflation? Well, inflation is when you have too much money chasing too few goods. Do you see where this is going? With all of the damage that we have done to our currency, the damage done by our government, let's not forget, by printing more and more and more, and then other governments offloading their own dollars back onto us. Do you see the catastrophic side of that? This isn't new news. There's no reason to think that our own government didn't see this coming. In fact, I'm pretty sure they did. What's that you say? FedNow? It starts in July. It is a central bank digital currency, not to be confused with the US dollar. They are not the same. The digitized currency is a completely fictional note. It's not backed by anything except what the government says it's worth. It's like Bitcoin, except it's Bitcoin's evil twin. Bitcoin is inherently uncontrollable. That's the way it was designed, and it was designed to be that way for just that reason. I'm talking actual Bitcoin, okay, not the other fake digital currencies that are out there, of which there are a lot. That makes Bitcoin basically a loose end, as in hard to regulate, impossible to control, and difficult to track and tax. As you can imagine, the government hates Bitcoin, but they do like the idea of it. Now imagine Bitcoin, but remove the inherently uncontrollable part of it. What good would that be? None to us. Everything to the government. Now imagine the scenario I started off talking about, the collapse of the United States dollar. So the dollars start piling up over here as they're dumped by more and more countries. Too many dollars, so they're not worth as much, and nobody else wants them. As more arrive, that problem would get worse and soon would reach hyperinflation levels. It wouldn't take long. There are a lot of dollars out there. A lot held in other countries. And if they want to offload them, they can do it. So what are we talking about here? We're talking about like $100 loaves of bread type of situation, okay? The insanity and catastrophic panic buying, banks closing, looting, loss of savings and retirements, severe hopelessness. This is a nightmare scenario. People will be looking for any salvation that they can get. Who do you think they're going to look to first? They're going to look to the government. They will be absolutely desperate for salvation for the government to do something. Think back a few years ago, okay? What I'm talking about here isn't a new version of the common cold. We can all remember how society reacted to the freaking sniffles. They were ready to hand over everything to the government for salvation from a fever. Imagine the cataclysm stemming from hyperinflation. People will be ready to prostrate themselves before the feet of the government, begging for any kind of reprieve. And would you just look at that? They have your salvation already installed and ready to go. It's a new currency, a new account with the central bank, aka Federal Reserve, and its subsidiaries. What are those subsidiaries? You know, smaller banks that will play ball with the Fed, do what the government says. We're seeing who those are now, aren't we? Hello, PNC Bank. They are the ones that will be spared or brought back from the brink of the economic and social disaster caused by the implosion of the US dollar. FedNow, coming this July to a province near you. It's just like the dollar, except it doesn't exist. It's only worth what they say it's worth, and you can only spend it when and where the government or the Fed or the subsidiaries say you can. What's the matter? Does that smell fishy to you? Oh, come on now. When has the government ever done anything to infringe upon your rights or take your money from you? The government will save you. Just place all of your faith in them. They can build back better, right? Don't want to put your faith in the government? Okay, then. You can just keep using dollars. Good luck with that whole starvation thing. So what do we do about this? Now? Shit, I don't know. Buy a bunch of ammo? Move the hell out of the city as a country? I'm not sure, honestly. The ideology is a religion, okay? And we're not really convincing people anymore. There's not a lot of intelligent debate going on, in case you haven't noticed. The truth is, the amount of weakness, naivety, and straight up mental illness that has been driven into the last 2 generations has reached some sort of critical mass. I don't think we can unprogram that many people, especially with the amount of self-reinforcement and delusion built into the religion of leftism. That's a very formidable task, to put it lightly. Will they grow up to realize the error of their ways? Maybe some will, but by the looks of it, I think a lot of them are so weak and delusional, they are perfectly happy to live on their knees. A lot of them already do. They get a pat on the head from big government because they think they're fighting for their rights, right? They're too weak-minded and naive to understand that they're doing the exact opposite of that. If they don't have the objectivity and critical thinking skills to realize that they're just useful idiots, pretty safe to say they don't have the integrity and moral fortitude for an actual righteous fight. They signify nothing except cowed existence, cowardice, and always taking the path of least resistance. It takes nothing more than simply existing for some of them to surrender to their own nihilism and pessimism. To paraphrase an old dead guy, theirs will be a tale told by idiots, full of sound and fury, signifying nothing. Good day.